the supernatural as something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
Welcome to Spooky Southcoast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. We're here to talk with you about the paranormal, as we are each and every Saturday night, just as soon as the Red Sox are ready to let us do so. From what I understand, this was supposed to be an earlier game today, but because of the Bruins parade, they moved it back to a 7 o'clock start. So here we are, starting the show a little bit late. So we'll try and figure things out on the fly, because we have a great show lined up for you tonight. We actually have two guests that are going to be joining us over the course of the evening. First, we're going to have Thomas Sheridan in the first hour, and he's going to be talking with us about his fascinating new book. It is called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. And since I deal with a couple of psychopaths here every Saturday night, yeah. What do you think's causing that problem, Matt?
What problem?
And we continue on with the show. And then a little bit later on, we'll be joined by Jeffrey Gonzalez of Sanger Paranormal Society with some interesting Bigfoot news, from what I understand. I don't know anything about this. See, Chris just booked this. Our content director, Chris Balzano, booked this interview with us for the second hour, and I don't know anything about it. So I'm excited, because I'm going to be finding out about it just as long alongside the audience. So. And for those of you who are watching on Spooky TV, we have some new cameras up in the studio, which is, I can't believe how, I'm fascinated by how much technology we have in this place now. If my mic is dropping out, somebody in the chat room can just let me know, because we're losing it here in the studio. I don't know if it's us, or is my mic dropping out, guys in the chat room? Please let us know. But we do have some fascinating new equipment here to play with, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. If you go to SpookySouthcoast.com/spooky TV, you can check out for yourself, and you can join the live chat. And I know this makes for great radio when we do this, but watch this shot. Ready?
Yeah.
It was working great, I swear. Everything was working great before the show started. And there we go. We have a brand new camera here for me. And it's a little bit better, I think, than the previous shot, which I think was directly up my nose. And then, speaking of directly up your nose, we also have a new camera from Matt Moniz, but we got to kind of work on getting that one a little bit better positioned, because right now it's halfway to his brain. So we will foster our way through that, and let's get right into the discussion with our first guest tonight. Thomas Sheridan was born in Dublin. He's a professional artist and writer living and working in South Sligo. I hope I'm saying that right. Under the shadow of the Ox Mountains. A former rock musician and graphic designer, he moved to the region in 1998 and has been painting full-time since 2005. And as we said, his new book is called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. You can check it out at labyrinthpsycho.blogspot.com to find out more. But he joins us now on the phone all the way from Ireland. Good evening, good morning, good whatever time of day it is for you over there, Thomas.
Hi, guys. It's 3:30 in the morning.
Well, thank you for getting up early for us, or staying up late, whichever way you decided to do it.
I stayed up too, so no worries. I'm used to it by this stage.
And the great thing, we're talking about all this technology we have here, we're joining up with you over Skype, so it sounds like you're in the same room with us, even though you're across the pond.
Wonderful. I can hear you great too.
Excellent. Well, when you first contacted me about this, I said, it doesn't really fit necessarily the paranormal theme that we usually talk about on this show. But when I read your email, I started to realize, wait a minute, I think I'm coming into contact with a lot of psychopaths on a daily basis, just based on my own personal opinion of them. But after reading some of the book, it seems like psychopaths are a little bit more prevalent than we might think they are.
Yes, they're roughly 4% of society in the Western world. They're about 1 in every 22 to 25 people between Europe and North America, according to public health bodies. More common than people realize, because they have this notion that a psychopath is specifically an axe killer, or a Jeffrey, not a Jeffrey Dahmer, but a Ted Bundy type.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, they're not. They're a pair person who lives amongst us, and they're generally what I've come to after the years of studying this issue. What's basically a predatory consciousness that exists and lives amongst the human race that's basically sees the rest of us as a target. Now, we could be a target in every way from wanting to take our money to wanting to take our country, but the pernicious psychopathic drive is the same in all these individuals. It's them against us.
Well, one of the themes that you talk about in the book Puzzling People is you mentioned that the psychopath is incapable of feeling remorse or any empathy toward their target, toward their victim. But that leads to the question, at least in my mind, are they consciously aware of what they're doing, or is it just something that's hardwired into their personality?
Oh, absolutely. They're aware of what they're doing. What happens is they're born this way. And when they're growing up, they will notice that their friends and the people around them that they know have these things called emotions in relation to things that upset them. Like if a parent dies, or a grandmother dies, or a dog dies, or a cat dies, they'll see the kids getting around them getting very upset and wondering why they're fretting, and why they're crying, and why they're withdrawn. And it dawns on them by the time they're a teenager, an early teenager, that they don't have the same kind of emotional experiences that the rest of us do, and they become aware that they're not like us. Now, what happens by the time they reach puberty is they make a specific decision in their lives. They say to themselves, "Okay, I've got this ability not to feel, but if I pretend I can feel, if I can pretend I can love, full ability to manipulate, deceive, and destroy and take what I want from anyone without having to feel any remorse about doing it." And therefore, essentially, in terms of their emotional experience, they're completely feral. And yes, they are aware of what they're doing, and they know. This is what makes them, not unwell victims who need our sympathy. Yes, they are born this way, but they make a specific decision to do bad because they know right from wrong, and they choose wrong because basically excites them. It gives them a thrill.
Well, I definitely know many people that are like that.
Yeah, I married a couple.
Well, and they might say the same about you. This guy to my left, Thomas Matt Moniz, is a pretty good judge of character. He always kind of has a raised eyebrow to most people in general. He doesn't always take people at face value, and he really kind of digs into their personality before he gets close to them. I mean, it took a long time before. Yeah, I don't think I'm insulting you here, but it took a while before we were actually really friends. I mean, you were very guarded when you came into the show, and it took a while for you to let your hair down, no pun intended.
So to speak, yeah.
Well, I think that's very wise by Matt. I think that's actually, I've actually become more like that myself now since I've had problems with psychopaths in my past, and specifically in the working environment. I first found out about all this stuff when I was working on Wall Street, and I'd imagine the radio and the media business is the same. They do attract a certain personality type because it gives them the power and access to, well, many different things that they wouldn't get in a normal job, especially ego stuff. Though Matt is actually right to do that. This is one of the ways that psychopaths get you. If you're too open in your personality, they read into your personality, and especially anything that they can use as a trigger to actually take control of you or to manipulate you. So it's actually a wise, my suggestion would be to be, to be casually friendly, to be courteous, but to also be wary until you get to know a person. So it's probably a good way to live, I think.
Well, but I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean to cut you up. But what I was going to say was, though, for somebody who is like that and is so guarded, to have let psychopaths kind of slip by him, it just shows that you can't really detect them right from the bat until it's too late.
No, because they
Oh,
have
no.
a personality. I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt. I was going to say
Go
they
ahead.
have this type of personality where they're able to read people like me that are a little bit more guarded. So it becomes more of a game to them to get in, if I'm not mistaken.
You're absolutely right. In fact, it's a challenge, and it's something they work on. Like, a lot of the people who contacted me since the book came out, and they've all said the same thing. I'm a strong person. I'm a strong man. I'm a strong, independent woman. How come I was targeted? And that's who the target. It gives them as you said, a target to work for and a challenge to rise to, and they love nothing better than to take someone like that and then just demolish them if they can.
Well, is there a difference between a psychopath and a sociopath? Because we hear both terms used to describe people of what you're describing.
No, it's the same thing. It's two different names for the same pathology. In the the first term ever used, well, the very earliest terms were things like they were called moral insanity or moral imbecility. And then for about the last 100 years, the term psychopath has been quite, the norm to describe these types. What happened was when the Alfred Hitchcock movie Psycho came out in the early 60s, to distinguish from a murderous one from a sort of a social psychopath who's not violent, they invented the term sociopath, but it's the same thing. It's come back into vogue again, psychopath again, but it's just terminology for the two names of the same pathology.
Well, you mentioned earlier that these people do not deserve our sympathy, that they're not unwell people. They know full well what they're doing. But if that's the case, I don't understand why this wouldn't be considered a mental condition. Uh, if it's if it's something that's wired into them, why is it not considered something that is not only um, medical in nature but also potentially treatable?
Well, there's no treatment for it, and no one has ever treated it, and no one has ever become, not become a psychopath. They're like that till the day they die. If they do CAT scans on them, these are the old people in the old homes who are stealing money off others and things like that. No, there's no cure. But the thing is, you do struggle with this idea that surely if they're sick people they need our sympathy, but it's a very, very different thing with these. They're very aware that they're sick, they're very aware that they're different, and they don't care. And now I'm not suggesting we should sort of or take away their civil rights or anything like that. But at the same time, too, and there would be psychopaths, I'm sure, and I haven't met them yet, but I'm sure they do exist, who know they're psychopaths and just, they just don't bother anybody because they just want an easy life, or else they have everything they need. But the thing is that makes them so dangerous is they're aware of their pathology, and then they use that pathology to go after the rest of us. It would be like someone who had bubonic plague and got a kick out of like breathing their germs on others.
Well, I mean, what is kind of the chronology of dealing with a psychopath? I mean, how do they find a way to kind of infiltrate your life, and where might it go from there?
Well, the first thing is they'll identify you as a potential target. Suppose that could be anything. You could be good looking, you could have a bit of money, you could just be something as simple as having a place for them to live because they've nowhere to live and don't want to pay rent. The first thing they'll do is they'll have a whole range of targets that they'll be potential targets they'll be checking out, and then they will find the one that gives them the best benefits with the least amount of work because they're fundamentally lazy. And suppose you were a woman who say just divorced or you've just been widowed. Well, you'd be very tempted to a male psychopath because first of all you'd be lonely, and you would have a place to live, and it may even be an insurance payoff. So there he's looking at three things: money, sex, and a roof over his head. And he would then start to engage this person as a friend at first and start to know her triggers. He may find out that their husband died of cancer, and he'll probably make up a story about, oh, my mother died of cancer, my sister died of cancer, I nursed them on their deathbed. He may find out that she's an environmentalist, and he'll show up, pretending he's like a big fan of Al Gore and how much he cares about the environment. He will find the things that you're into and the things that you believe in, and then he or upon that, and they will look for aspects in your life that are missing. If you didn't have a father figure when you were growing up, they will become that father figure. If you didn't have if you had an unfulfilling sex life with your present partner or your last partner, they will be everything you ever wanted in the bedroom, and things like that. And they will also flatter you. They will do things like flattery. If you're insecure about your looks, say you're a little bit overweight, they'll tell you that you're absolutely stunning and beautiful, and it's all a lie. It's all to get you to break down your guard and trust them. And once they're in there, it's almost like they bore into your psyche, and eventually they begin to starting to replace your personality with theirs. Ultimately, you will become a sort of a mind control slave in the personal sense, in terms of your own intellect and psyche, until they'll start doing things like changing your sense of reality around you, lying when you know that what they're saying is not true, but they'll say it in such a way you'll start to doubt your own sanity. This is called gaslighting. They will do all kinds of things to project their own problems upon you, and they will confuse, distort, and eventually you won't know the difference in black, white, day or night, and you become kind of dependent on them. And when it reaches that stage, you're then a slave.
I said at the beginning of the show that, normally we talk about the paranormal and that this comes outside of the realm of the paranormal, but it sounds like something that's paranormal. It sounds like something that, lurks in the shadows. The idea of a psychopath coming up with all these different ways of breaking you down and basically feeding off of you. But, we talked about how this is kind of hardwired into them, but is it possible that a psychopath can develop as a result of how they're raised, of the nurture aspect instead of the nature?
No, a true psychopath is born. You can actually make someone who's, say someone who's experienced a horrific childhood, I don't know, a refugee in war, or, sexual abuse or something by a priest. This individual may grow up to be what I would call a proto-psychopath, where they would be lashing out at the world and they would have psychopathic behaviors, but they wouldn't have the brain anomalies or the difference, the lack of activity within their frontal cortex. They would just be simply angry people who would be emulating the only thing they knew, and that would be violence against the world. But if you got those people, you could cure them, where you can't cure a psychopath. Now, to address what you were saying about the paranormal aspects, in my book I actually deal with the whole concept of psychopaths in folklore and allegory. And if you look at many of the motifs out there regarding things like vampires, demon possession, things like the jinn and other aspects, the werewolf, the psychopaths generally have high levels of testosterone and are very feral, and they have strange sleeping patterns. They may be a lot of them will be these things. In a pre-scientific age, they would have been rationalized as that.
One of the big discussions that we have here on the show all the time is that when people do pass on, and when we deal with some of the spirits and some of the ghosts, we talk about how they retain whatever their personality was when they were alive. And so, some of the things that we deal with are pretty nasty. And I just wonder if some of these negative spirits that people are always encountering, the ones that they might even tag demonic, could actually be psychopaths who have passed on and are still basically living that same lifestyle in the afterlife.
Well, it could be possible. I mean, I've no experience of this myself, and I'm an open-minded person, so I'm not like close-minded to anything like that. But I do, in terms of this book, I had to stick with the actual, the reductionist science stuff as much as possible. But I will say this: what's inside a psychopath, the actual consciousness that's in there, and I'm talking about the actual consciousness, the underlying sort of observer behind the brain that we all have, or behind the mind. What's in there is not one of us, and I absolutely have come to that conclusion now. It is some kind of negative or predatory consciousness that exists within humanity. They almost see the rest. They're almost like a mutated consciousness. Now, this brings up other aspects too, like the whole idea of the reptilian complex of the brain. There's the lower part of our brain is actually a reptilian brain, and it's obsessed with things like survival, sexual, passing on your DNA through sexual reproduction, kill or be killed. It's paranoid. And then the upper parts of the brain above that would be the mammalian cortexes, and then things like the frontal cortex, where we have things like cognitive awareness, creativity, compassion, and those. The thing with that is, it's almost like the psychopathic consciousness lives almost within the reptilian or complex part of the brain. So if there is such a thing as life after death, and maybe there is. I'm sure there is. I have very different ideas about the collective consciousness and like how the psyche is eternal in a different kind of way. But if there is such a thing as an eternal afterlife spirit, and it was a psychopath in the previous life, it would absolutely be the same way, because what would actually survive death is the same thing that existed before we were born, and that's consciousness. So a negative consciousness would absolutely, if it was in that state, would be exactly the same as in life. So yeah, maybe that's what the people are encountering.
We are talking with Thomas Sheridan. He's the author of Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. And you can go to his website. It's labyrinthpsycho.com. Am I getting that right? I'll let you give it, Thomas. What's the website again for the book?
It's Labyrinth Psycho at .blogspot.com, and my YouTube channel, which has dozens of videos now on the subject, including stuff to do with allegorical and folk motifs of psychopaths, is called Thomas Sheridan Arts.
And that's an interesting question. You're an artist by trade, right?
Yeah,
And how does
that's
an
how.
how does an artist get to this point where they're basically devoting so much time breaking down the psyche of the psychopath?
Well, I'll tell you how. I started out in the music business. I was playing in a band in New York, and I met some really strange people and found myself in some very strange situations. And at the time, I assumed, okay, I'm in the alternative music scene here. I'm playing in the bands on the Lower East Side, and this is just how people normally are. They're artists, bohemians, whatever. And then I dealt with that. But then when I left that, I studied as a graphic designer and went to work for a very famous or very infamous Wall Street investment bank. And while I was working there, I kind of became friends with this banker, and he was from a wealthy Manhattan family, but he'd absolutely driven his family nuts because he was out of control. He was doing things like stealing sports cars that belonged to his father's friend and spending his mother's credit cards. And he eventually one day blurted out to me out of the blue, and I think he was trying to impress me because I was telling him about my band days and the adventures we'd got up to. And he goes, "Hey, I'm a psychopath." And I burst out laughing. I said, "What do you mean you're a psychopath? You chop people up?" And he goes, "No, I'm not that kind of psychopath." And then he started to tell me how his family had enough of him when he was about 19, and they sent him to the top, psychiatric hospitals in New York, and they did a CAT scan, and he scored at the high end of the scale. And then I started asking him about what was it like, and he started to tell me a lot of things I'm telling you right now about like his emotional life. And then I said to him, "Can you point out other people in the building in our department, other departments who are also psychopaths?" And he started to tell me, "Oh yeah, we have like an instinctual ability to recognize each other. That's very spooky. It's almost clairvoyant."
Mm.
And he started to point them out. And funny enough, they were the people that used to give me the creeps when they would walk by. If they walked into a room, there would be a sense of negative tension, negative energy in the room, and that just became my intro into the subject. And I started reading books and I started collecting articles and whatever I could find on the stuff. And the more I read about this stuff, it made it very easy for me to be able to deal with like individuals and negative situations that had happened in my life. And so eventually one thing led to another, and I made some videos for YouTube, and then a publisher in the UK saw them and offered me to ask me to write a book, and that's how Puzzling People came out. But yeah, I know it's kind of a strange journey, but it's just something that fascinates me. I think ultimately it was me trying to come to terms with the nature of evil and what makes people can be so heartless and controlling.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned you met some strange people in the music business, and we meet some strange people in our business as well, both in the media and in the paranormal. But it seems to me like when you're under the control of one of these psychopaths, as much as you uh, want to try to believe that there's good in them, it just doesn't seem like that's the case. It doesn't seem like there's any to be found from what you're describing.
Oh, there is no good in them. In fact, when I do presentations now and I'm doing speaking engagements, I'll start off by saying, "Look, your grandmother told you that everybody has some good in them. Well, I'm here to tell you that 4% of the human race has absolutely no good in them, and that's the truth. There's nothing in there that's of any. It's purely malicious." Even when it seems like it's wonderful at times. I mean, you're talking about people who put a wedding ring, a wedding band on your finger and swear, their vows before God, and it has no more meaning to them than like ordering a cheeseburger. And they're just using it to get you to, you just something they can use right then. You're talking about people as soon as they're married will begin cheating with three or four other people at the same time.
Mm.
I mean, there's no conscience, there's no humanity, there's no empathy. Everybody is a target, and they have no sense of self-reflection or anything like that. This is another interesting spooky aspect about them is that when they go to sleep at night, they literally close their eyes and they're out. It's like a machine switching off, and when they wake up in the morning, the eyelids literally open and they step out of bed. And it's almost like they live in this sort of like robotic world of where everyone's a target and I'm the machine or I'm the entity that's going to use them.
Sounds like politicians.
Oh yeah, that's the main thrust of my work more and more in recent times. It's just like that's who I'm getting called up mostly by now to do interviews with is people who deal with political issues. Politicians are natural psychopaths. You think it's everything they want is there. This is how they can lie to people, tell the most appalling lies, make them the most incredible promises, and as soon as they're in office, they're like, I don't care, and they'll just do the opposite.
Well, we have about 4 minutes left in this hour before we have to take a break. There is a call on the line. Now, for those listening at home, we do have Thomas on Skype all the way from Ireland, so we're going to have to kind of relate the question, and I don't think they're going to be able to hear the answer. So, caller, we'll let you ask your question. We'll relate it. We suggest that you hang up and be able to listen immediately. All right, good evening. You're on Spooky Southcoast with Thomas Sheridan. How you doing?
Hi, guys. First of all, I wanted to say, yeah, there's plenty of psychopaths in New Bedford, first and foremost. But next, I wanted to know how much this has to do with, like, the economy and how many sociopaths are caused by a bad economy. And are the people who do better in the economy better sociopaths than the ones who do not, achieve their means? That's it.
Okay, we'll relate that question. Thomas, I don't think you could hear that question, right?
Yeah, I heard the question. It's a good
excellent.
one.
Cool.
It's one that comes up all the time. The issue with them in their economic survival and how they survive. Well, you have to remember when they're actually, if there's a bad economy, they're not doing better because they're smarter than the rest of us. They're quite stupid. They're doing better because they're scamming somebody. Now, inherent in that scam is the seeds of their own self-destruction. This is why they're all ultimately doomed in the end, because it doesn't matter if they're doing well when you're doing bad. They will eventually, they've all got this like self-destruct button under their foot, and one day they'll stamp their foot too hard and destroy themselves. And this is brought about by their cockiness. They're incredibly narcissistic. All of them have this godlike complex, and so yes, and this is why when they get into positions of power as CEOs of companies, they destroy these companies. This is why. You see, it's a fine line here. On one hand, in certain businesses, psychopaths are absolutely excellent because they're ruthless, because of their weird sleeping patterns. They can work till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, show up at 9 o'clock the next day. I saw this all the time in Wall Street and be perfectly okay with it. But their actual production and their work output is usually a joke. They're giving the image of a hotshot, or they're given the image of a go-getter, but that's not the same thing as actually being intellectual, because most of them are actually quite intellectually stupid. And what they do is they will end up destroying these companies, because they'll get the management and even themselves at the very top, to have even the shareholders, to have all this faith in them that these people, look at him, he's such a go-getter, he's so cocky, he's so, he knows what he's doing, but ultimately he doesn't know what he's doing, and he'll end up bringing the company down with them. So, if you know a psychopath and he seems to be doing well right now, I mean, I know the economy all over the world is a mess at the moment, but just blow themselves up, and a lot of them also, they do well in jobs because they bully people. They're most of the most sadistic bullies in the workplace are always psychopaths.
All right, well, we have to take a break for the news. When we come back on the other side, it's going to be about a 6-minute break, Thomas, but we'll bring you back. And I know we don't want to name all the names, but maybe we'll throw out some of the names, because you name some names in the book, Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopaths. So we'll talk about all that and more coming up in just a few minutes after the news. And then later on in the second half of the hour, we're going to be talking some Bigfoot stuff, so you want to stay tuned for that as well. And if you're not watching Spooky TV, you can go to SpookySouthcoast.com/Spooky TV. You can watch it there, and you can join in the chat room as well. So we will be right back with more in just a few minutes here on Spooky South Coast.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, Citadel Broadcasting, AM 1420, WBSM.
From ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. Explosions are heard Sunday in Libya's capital, Tripoli, from NATO airstrikes, not long after NATO apologized for any casualties from mistakenly hitting some Libyan rebel vehicles near an eastern oil town 2 days ago. No word of deaths or injuries. 90 days after U.S. military action begins, Congress has to give the okay before it can continue, and Sunday is day 90. ABC's David Muir.
Congress also does control the funding of this and could cut off funding for the mission, but there is no sign they're even close to doing that.
President Obama says the U.S. is not in the lead, only supporting the NATO operation. No direct confirmation or denial from the White House on the Afghan president announcing that peace talks have been going on between the Taliban, the U.S. military, and Afghanistan's government. ABC's Nick Schifrin.
The U.S. is convinced that a political solution is the only way to end the Afghan war. So in the last few months, senior U.S. officials have met with a man believed to be passing messages to and from the Taliban Leadership Council. The talks with the representative are preliminary and tentative, but they are the first attempts by the U.S. to speak with the enemy directly.
ABC's Nick Schifrin in Islamabad, Pakistan. Syrian troops armed with tanks and machine guns are forcing more people to flee across the border into Turkey, where thousands are already refugees. This word from human rights activists. And these are some of the Syrian refugees in Turkey, where actress and UN diplomat Angelina Jolie visited Saturday, saying she talked to some of the children.
One kid was explaining how he just had I said, what did you come with? Did you pack? And he said, I had my shirts, but that's it.
E Street band Saxman Clarence Clemens is dead. You might not know his name, but he was a part of all of this memorable Bruce Springsteen music for 40 years.
We were playing for each other. You know, we had to live up to the expectations of each other as a group, the band, and to turn each other on, to keep each other going, you know.
Clemens was 69. He had a stroke and 2 brain surgeries. You're listening to ABC News.
Aaron, technician from Safelite Auto Glass.
My last customers had quite a shock this morning. The side window and the windshield on their car had been shattered. They called Safelite right away. We got more windshields and side glass in stock than anyone. So I was able to fix it fast and get them back on the road. And they were happy because our work is backed by a national lifetime warranty.
Call Safelite 24/7 at 1-800-800-2727.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
If you've never experienced gelling with Dr. Scholl's massaging gel insoles,
You've never walked all the way to work on top of cushy throw pillows.
Or worked a jackhammer while standing in a field of beautiful daisies.
That's because gelling does more than change the way you feel. It changes your state of mind.
So I can teach my class while enjoying the soft white sand under my feet.
Experience all-day outrageous comfort for yourself with Dr. Scholl's massaging gel insoles. Are you gelling?
I'm glad I have feet.
The biggest wildfire threats remain in Texas and New Mexico, where ABC's Damon Fernandez talked with fire officials in Tomball, Texas.
They tell me a dead tree limb fell on a power line that caused a spark, hit the grass, and it spread into a 35-acre fiery mess out here right now.
The Big Wallow Fire in eastern Arizona has now burned 782 square miles. Hot, strong wind has hampered firefighters, but forecasters say they expect some rain starting Tuesday could help turn things around. FBI investigators are trying to find out if the U.S. Marine, an Ethiopian American, arrested at Arlington National Cemetery yesterday, is a lone terrorist. ABC News senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
In the aftermath of bin Laden being killed, one of the things that law enforcement officials have been telling me that the most immediate threat, the most imminent threat, is likely to be some lone wolf character who's angry about bin Laden's death, who's angry about U.S. policies overseas, that person would act out. They believe that is the most immediate threat and also the most difficult threat to detect.
Concerned about isolationism being expressed in his party's politics. Senator John McCain, Arizona Republican, an exclusive interview with ABC's Christiane Amanpour.
So Republicans have always been very strong on national defense, on national security, and have always stood firmly for that. And you saw those 7 candidates standing on the stage in New Hampshire really talking about pulling back. So he was concerned about that.
This is ABC News.
Is it time for a new roof? Get your roofing job done right. Call Sears Roofing right now for a free in-home estimate. That's Sears Roofing. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. Call Sears Roofing right now. 1-888-990-2233. That's 1-888-990-2233. 1-888-990-2233. Sears.
Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
I'm working 2 jobs, and my husband works too. My kids go to school with your kids. I sit next to you at PTA meetings. We live right next door. We've been neighbors for years. You know my family and me pretty well, but here's one thing you don't know. I'm one out of every 6 Americans. and my family is struggling with hunger. Like you, we believe in this country. What's hard to believe is in the land of milk and honey, how many hardworking Americans have to choose between paying bills and feeding their families. This is a problem with a solution. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for those around you quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
In the next minute, 156 people will be added to Earth's population. Overpopulation is not just a numbers game, it's also about a better quality of life, which includes access to basic health care, food, clean water, and a sustainable balance between people and our natural resources. If you think population is such a big problem that you can't make a difference, think again. Learn more at populationconnection.org, a public service from Population Connection.
Let's say you're a dad and you want to take your son and daughter on the perfect camping trip. So you pack up the car with all your gear. We're all loaded up! And you get the right direction.
Arriving at destination.
And you set up camp right next to a creek.
I caught a fish!
And it all goes perfectly.
Best trip ever, Dad!
And you're the perfect dad. But even if it doesn't go that way and your gear ends up on the highway, and you get completely lost.
Where are you going?
And your campground is near a beehive. It can still be the perfect camping trip because kids don't always see things the way you see them.
Best trip ever, Dad!
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Home Depot has top brands and tools, all at guaranteed low prices. That means you can pay less and do more. Visit HomeDepot.com for more details. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
1 in 12 children in Uganda is left alone. This year, Citadel Broadcasting is supporting the worthwhile cause of Ray of Hope in Africa to build a children's home, medical center, and school. Every dollar you give will help a child in need whose only chance for a better life is through your contributions. For more information about Ray of Hope in Africa and how you can help, go to rayofhopeinafrica.org. Ray of Hope in Africa is a division of Humanitarian Hands Foundation.
Hi, Tom Bodette. I prefer a road trip to air travel any old day. I don't have to walk through a man-sized microwave in my socks. I always get the window, and no little seatbelt sign controls my bathroom breaks. Best part, I get to stop at Motel 6. Still the best value for a clean, comfortable room for the lowest price of any national chain. Book online at motel6.com. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you, but not that little seatbelt one.
Twisted! Twisted Tea Tribute 31.
Nothing better on a hot day than a Twisted Tea.
There you have it, Twisted Tea, the refreshing hard iced tea that tastes like real iced tea. Twisted! Twisted Tea Tribute 41.
It tasted like tea with a little kick. I like kicks.
Twisted Tea, the refreshing hard iced tea that tastes like real iced tea. Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Twist responsibly.
My name is Sue Smith. I'm 8 years old, and I work at a graphic design company, which is funny, because I couldn't even draw a stick figure when I was a kid. But I met someone who told me, you know what? You can do anything if you really want to. And if the teenage me were here, she'd tell you,
I wouldn't be into drawing and art if it wasn't for big brothers, big sisters. Most kids from my neighborhood don't get into art. They get into trouble. But I was lucky because my big sister showed me early on that I didn't have to be like most people. And to the young me,
that meant a lot. My big sister's name is Sheila, and Sheila is the reason that this 8-year-old grows up to have an amazing job as a graphic designer.
Whether you donate money or time,
you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child, and that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
AM 1420, WBSM, where every Friday morning, the Pete Braley Show buys you dinner at the Mattapoisett Chowder House. To win, simply become a WBSM Facebook fan. It's easy. Just log on to WBSM.com and enter the keyword Facebook. Every Friday morning at 8:20, Pete and Neil read the name of a Facebook fan. When you hear yours, call back and win. Become a WBSM Facebook fan and win with the Mattapoisett Chowder House and AM 1420 WBSM.
Before his injury, John Bennett was a career soldier. While serving in Iraq, he was shot by a sniper.
Stepped out, turned back towards the Humvee, and as soon as I did, I got hit. It shattered 2 vertebrae and fractured another one. I ended up losing my right kidney, my spleen, my colon, and half my pancreas.
John's wife, Dina.
Paralyzed Veterans of America got us our benefits.
Senior National Service Officer Michael Killen.
I helped them fill out the forms. I hand carried the forms over to the VA and walked them through the system.
You're just trying to survive, and they help you along the way.
It's very nice to see when your work pays off and you're very successful in it, because you can see the change in that veteran.
Him starting a taxidermy business is accomplishing something every day.
I'm glad to be back to work.
To learn more about Paralyzed Veterans of America, visit pva.org, a public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
The Boston Red Sox. Hear every pitch, every at-bat. The Boston Red Sox. With every game live here on AM 1420 WBSM. Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez join Uke, Ellsbury, Ortiz, and Veritek. Hear every game all season long. Presented by Mechanics Cooperative Bank, Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, Fall River Ford, Gary's Best Hot Dogs, and by Paul and Dixon. The Red Sox on AM 1420 WBSM.
This heavyweight bout is about to begin. The challenger wears white trunks with a blue stripe, and the champ is wearing, looks like an examination gown from the doctor's office. And from the back, we can... Ooh, that's not pretty. Champ, what's with the crazy getup?
I've got to take care of my family.
Yeah, so?
Well, when you love your family, you got to go in and get those important medical screenings. A lot of potentially deadly diseases can be treated if you catch them in time.
So you wear the examination gown because...
Because I'm a real man. Real men take care of their families and get those tests. Real men wear gowns.
Okay, champ, good luck. Here we go. The champ's not wasting any time. It's over. This fight is over. Champ, you barely broke a sweat. Any words for your fans out there?
Remember, go to ahrq.gov for a list of the tests they need to get and when to get them.
What was that web address again?
ahrq.gov. And remember, real men wear gowns.
Go to ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, AHRQ, and the Ad Council.
You have a mission. It's no collision. Hold the phone. Don't text. You're angling to be next. Brothers and sisters, you won't see it coming. You're off the road. Your life explodes. It's not worth it. Don't do it. You only think there's nothing to it. Put it down, hang up, pay attention to highway action. Behind the wheel, there is no such thing as a small distraction. Join the conversation at decidetodrive.org, a public service message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
This is Bishop George Coleman of the Catholic Diocese of Fall River. Each year we conduct our Catholic Charities Appeal to fund the various agencies and apostolates of the diocese that seek to assist those in need. The services provided by the Church include assistance with food, housing, counseling, and education. We also help those who live with disabilities and those who seek assistance due to unemployment or immigration issues. As a church, we strive to offer the gift of hope to those whose lives may be difficult or distressing. And to do that, we need your help. Through your generous donations to our annual appeal, we are able to make a real and immediate difference in the lives of the many people who turn to the Church for help. So please, Support our Catholic Charities appeal and help us to offer the gift of hope to others.
If news is happening, you're hearing it now on AM 1420 WBSM.
So much time and so little to do. Strike that. Reverse it. This way, please.
Who's going to tell him? Oh, let's not wake him. He'll find out soon enough.
Let him have one last.
Spooky South.
I'm not
Back to Spooky Southcoast, hour number 2, or, you know, the rest of the show, as we can call it tonight, because we got a late start due to the Red Sox. But we are here to talk with you and to talk with our guest. Currently, right now, we're talking with Thomas Sheridan about his new book, Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. And then coming up a little bit later on in the second hour, we're going to be talking about some exciting new Bigfoot news with our guest. His name is Jeffrey Gonzalez, and he'll be talking with us about I actually don't know. So I'm going to be excited to find out right alongside with you, the listener. But we are talking about Psychopaths with Thomas Sheridan right now. And before the break, Thomas, we were talking kind of about the nature of the psychopath. And in this hour, I want to talk a little bit more about some examples of that. But one thing, why don't we tell everybody where they can get the book?
Right when I mute him.
Oh, yeah, we still have him. Hold on. We got to bring it back up, Thomas.
Amazon.com.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Amazon.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you. Yep. So
Yeah.
if you go to Amazon.com and look for the book Puzzling People.
If you don't want to deal with credit cards, you can go into your local bookstore, and if they don't have it, you can just order it from them, like, you know, your local Barnes and Nobles, whatever.
Okay, because we got a call during the break of somebody who was not online, so that's great for her because she can go to the local bookstore, and you know our friend down at Baker Books will take care of you too, listener. So
Cool.
You'll be all set. So we were talking about the idea of politicians being, you know, so many of them being psychopaths, and I'm sure that you would have no problem throwing out a few of those names.
Do you want me to, like, name historical figures?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. We don't have to name anybody currently. We don't want to incur any lawsuits here, but.
Yeah. Well, I think, okay, if you're looking for a politician, think of somebody who's incredibly glib, superficial, and seems to have no conscience. And I will say one thing and do another, and even be smug about it. And that, unfortunately, covers a lot of politicians in just about every country in the world. But in terms of historical figures, in politics in general, you'll find that the biggest psychopaths aren't actually directly involved in being elected. They're high-ranking public servants or are involved in these behind-the-scenes organizations and groups, and would be sort of like the playmakers of the political system. They were in these think tanks and these NGOs and quangos where they would be sort of using the financial system to fund certain political parties, actually both political parties and all, in just about every country, in order to get the politicians to do what they want. Now, that's how it works in like the democratic world that we live in. If you want to look at, like, her, you know, classic examples of psychopaths in politics who did terrible evil, you would look at someone like Leon Trotsky. He went to the Soviet Union with a large amount of money to help finance the Bolshevik revolution, and when the revolution was won, he decided that the best thing to do to make people actually, you know, not complain about the new government would be just to pay death squads to kill anyone they could find. And his idea was, if you have everyone turned and terrified of everyone else and people being shot for no reason, there'll be no opposition and they'll keep their mouth shut. That would be a classic psychopath in the political sense. There'll be many others examples. Pol Pot, these would be the ones who got to the top and got violent. Pol Pot one as well. A lot of the ones who get to the top, they want to play God and they start to reorganize societies. Mao Zedong would be another one. He had this need to control people, but also the hypocrisy would be there as well. While he'd be talking about morality and the feudal life of the communist peasant under the the red army or the communist revolution in China, he himself had vast collections of sports cars and kept women on the side in concubines. And that's the kind of thing that goes on with these types. It's usually the combination of hypocrisy. They'll be talking about things like equality and how we all have to tighten our belts and these are hard times. Well, these guys would be living like millionaires. Now, I'm not saying Al Gore is a psychopath. I'm just not saying that. But a person who flies around first class in private jets all over the world while telling the rest of us to not fly because we're destroying the environment, that's the kind of thing you should be looking out for.
Well, what about outside of the political arena? What about those who might be considered religious leaders? I mean, I understand, that the idea of a psychopath is they have to know what they're doing, but I'm sure that religion is something that a lot of them can easily use to help, get the ends of their means. Somebody like a David Koresh, a Marv Applewhite, a Jim Jones, do these type of figures, do you think that they could be psychopaths that are just, utilizing that avenue to get what it is that they're after?
I don't know about David Koresh. He's an interesting character. I'd have to see more about him. But what happened there was a horrific tragedy. It wasn't necessarily of his own making. It would just seem to be a complete screw up on every level, involving the government and everything. But and the terribly badly managed law enforcement during that siege. Jim Jones. He was a classic example of a psychopathic leader. He would be very close to a Charles Manson type who had this hypnotic, pull over and hold over his people. Jim Jones, there's a very disturbing audio of him that at the actual time they're poisoning the people in Guyana, and it's a classic psychopathic thing. He's telling the ones who don't want to kill their children that they're letting everybody else down, and his idea was he knew he was finished, so you're all going to go down with me. That's very psychopathic. The whole thing is like, this is, I'm God. Even calling the place Jonestown, I mean, I know it's called the People's Temple, but it was called the People's Temple at Jonestown. The God complex inherent in the psychopath. Very, very, that's very, very common in the churches and the religions. A lot of the top people in the Catholic Church, unfortunately, I'm not being sectarian here, or I'm of Catholic background myself, but it's just like I seen it here in Ireland with the sex abuse scandals. You had people who were involved in like having sex with children and then getting up on on TV and talking about how much they were going to protect children. Again, that's very psychopathic to do one thing and say another.
Well, but aside from, naming these names and these more famous examples of psychopaths, as we talked about in the first hour, they are people that you do come in contact with quite frequently. And you offer in the book a lot of advice about what to do if you've had contact, if you've had a relationship, if you've had a long-term interaction with a psychopath. And for those who are listening and it might be dawning on them, hey, I think I'm dealing with that right now. What's your advice to them?
Well, most people are going to encounter them in a relationship. They're going to be married to one or dating one, or and it can happen to anyone. And the first thing is to realize is it's not your fault. Okay, you are specifically targeted, and it do not blame yourself. Now, the second thing is to have absolutely no contact with these individuals ever again. And by no contact, I mean things like do not look up on their name. After the relationship is broken up, don't look up their Facebook page. Change your phone number if you have to. Unfortunately, you might have to stop being friends with people that you and the psychopath know each other through. That's an unfortunate aspect, but you've got to protect your sanity, and you will not recover until this entity, this being, this psychopathic predatory consciousness has no more hold over you. So the most important thing of all is no contact, and no contact ever again. There's no going back. They're never going to be cured, and they're never going to be reformed. And unfortunately with psychopaths, one of the things they like to do is they always like to seem to want to come back, even as a friend. But what they're doing is they're just testing you. You're going to be, they want you as almost like a relationship insurance policy, and they will play people for years. So that's the main thing. No contact ever again. If you have to deal with them through, you have children and things like that, always have a witness when you meet them. tell them things like you are going to record their behavior, and just basically you'll just, do not play their game. Do not engage them on their terms. Protect your own consciousness and protect your own dignity, and keep your mouth shut around them. And don't if they start a smear campaign against you, which they all do, while the relationship is ending, because they're moving on to their next target, and afterwards, do not start calling them psychopaths and sociopaths to everyone you know, because then they'll turn around and say, oh, she calls everyone that. So the thing is that no contact, and then start working on yourself. But importantly, if you just don't blame yourself. It takes a while, but the most important thing and the best healing tool of all is knowledge of what you were dealing with. If it suddenly dawns on you and you get the information from books like Puzzling People that you were dealing with a psychopath all along, it is tremendously healing, because then you realize you weren't dealing with a normal human being.
Well, I like that you did throw in there, because I was going to ask about isn't it human nature to try to, if you've dealt with somebody that's this bad, to try to warn others who might come in contact with them about it? But you suggest not even doing that. Don't even worry about what they're doing beyond, the relationship they had with you.
Yeah, just move on with your life. What happens to them is no good. They're not going to be thinking about you. You may spend 10 years with them. As soon as they move on to the next target, it's like you never existed. Because the personality that they've used to manipulate you wasn't a real personality. It was an invented persona that was just there to work you. And that gets switched off. And this is also what most people find very damaging, is that when they encounter the psychopath later on, they find it as a completely different personality. And that can be extremely traumatic to someone who was in a long-term relationship or married or had kids with one of these things.
All right, well, his name is Thomas Sheridan. The book is called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. Definitely pick it up for yourself. It's a fascinating read. I only got it a few days ago, so I didn't get to complete the whole book. But from what I've read so far, it starts to work its way into my head, and I say, okay, this person, there's so many personality traits of people that I know. And if you say that, this affects 4% of the population, for some reason, I think that 4% is surrounding me. Maybe they just think I'm easy prey. I don't know.
Well, that's what happens. They look for people. A lot of people who contact me say, I keep attracting these people over and over again. Now that you actually know about it, and you know about what they may be, you send off an unconscious signal and they don't bother with you anymore. That's why reading books like Puzzling People is so important, because you almost put a psychic shield around yourself, and they don't bother with you after that, because they know you're wise to them.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do they network with each other? Pass
No.
suckers on to suckers type of thing?
Well, they don't. A psychopath exists in a predator and host situation, or parasite and host situation, so they wouldn't really have much use for another psychopath, but they will team together for a common goal, like in a political party or a political movement or to a certain business, but they will turn on each other eventually, or drive each other out, or once they get what they want from it, they will leave. But no, you'll never get a situation where a psychopath will marry a psychopath or be friends with them, because they wouldn't see any use in the other one.
All right. Thank you, Thomas Sheridan, for joining us tonight. Again, the book is called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. You can go to labyrinthpsycho.blogspot.com, which I'm sure is linked up on the front page of SpookySouthcoast.com as well, where you can follow Thomas's work there, and you can also order the book from Amazon or through your local bookstore. Thomas, thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully sometime we can have you back for a full show.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me on, and anytime you want me back, just ask.
All right. Thanks. Have a great night, and thanks for staying up late with us, too.
No problem. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that is Thomas Sheridan again. You can get the book from Amazon. You can get it from bookstores. It's called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. Fascinating reading, a little bit different than what we normally talk about on the show, but we will get back into the paranormal coming up in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break because we want to run the last of our commercials so that we can go the rest of the show commercial-free, but then we'll be joined in just a little bit by Jeffrey Gonzalez of Sanger Paranormal Society. We got some interesting Bigfoot news, what he's calling some real evidence, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. We'll be right back with all that and more here on Spooky South Coast.
Covered AM 1420 WBSM. WBSM presents The Garden Guys, Sunday morning at 7. What to plant and when to plant it. Flowers, vegetable gardens, plants, and your lawn. Help for all your outdoor...
Just arms ajar, shortness of breath, please tell us more. Cold sweats and nausea, tiredness. It's time to take it serious. Back pain, stomach pain, shortness of breath. Cold sweats, nausea, dizziness. If you know the symptoms and heed the signs, you'll be around for a long, long time. Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any sound familiar, call 911.
Learn the song that can save your life. Get a free download at womenshealth.gov/heart attack.
Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any sound familiar, call 911. If any sound familiar, call 911.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
911.
My name is Tom Thornton.
And my name is Cindy Thornton. We're retired, and this is how we live united.
We decided to volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
United Way is how we contribute, because we know our time and money are going to the right places.
Judging by the thank yous we get at the clinic, I'd say we're doing the right thing with our retirement, too. We're Tom and Cindy Thornton. We volunteer at our community free health clinic. We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
The Boston Red Sox. Hear every pitch, every at-bat. The Boston Red Sox. With every game live here on AM 1420 WBSM. Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez join Uke, Ellsbury, Ortiz, and Veritek. Hear every game all season long. Presented by Southern Mass Credit Union, Pharma Health, BMW of Newport, Advanced Financial Group, and by C&R Appliances. The Red Sox on AM 1420 WBSM.
When I first decided to go back, I was a little scared because I was older.
Jared didn't know how to get the money he needed for college. Then he found out about federal student aid and the FAFSA.
When I first had the news that I received money, I ran downstairs and I showed my mother, and she was happy, so she started crying.
Need help planning and paying for college? Learn more at college.gov.
My name is Jared, and this is my story.
It's funny, isn't it? How everybody in town's afraid of you.
What's gonna happen tomorrow is gonna happen, and all your worry in the world isn't gonna change that.
Spooky South Coast is back.
All right, welcome back to Spooky South Coast, broadcasting live on WBSM and also online at Spooky TV. If you just go to SpookySouthCoast.com/SpookyTV or go to the main page and just click on the little Spooky TV logo up in the corner, you can actually watch what's going on here in the Spooky Studio and chat with some of our friends as well. And we are having a great night here already with our first guest, Thomas Sheridan, talking about psychopaths. And now we're going to go a little bit different direction, back into the paranormal realm with Jeffrey Gonzalez of Sanger Paranormal Society. And Jeffrey, you were telling me off the air that you guys are out of Fresno, California?
That's correct.
And how's things out there these days?
Actually, the weather today was about 92 degrees.
Nice. Well, we had a pretty good day here, too, so. But then again, it's New England. Tomorrow it could snow, for all we know.
Geez, yeah, the way things are going, the probability is very high.
So, from what I've been told now, I haven't been told anything except that you have some, what you guys consider to be some real evidence of Bigfoot. And we actually have a guy here with us, Matt Moniz, my co-host here, who has done a lot of investigation into Bigfoot. And I know he's just as interested in hearing about what you have as I am.
Very cool. Well, the word got out on the internet about a week ago, and I think tomorrow the media, or I shall say Monday, the media should be picking pretty heavy up on it. Well, what happened is I run a society, the Sanger Paranormal Society out here in Fresno, and we investigate everything paranormal from Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, anything weird, we're there. And in order for us to do that, we have to associate ourselves with the people who really do this, has been doing this for a long period of time. And there happened to have been an investigator in Fresno by the name of David Ragosa, who's been investigating Bigfoot for about 18, 19 years now. So I came in contact with him a couple of years ago, excuse me. And he has been taking me to this spot where he's been visiting for about 9 years up in the Sierras, just east of Fresno, about 3 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive, that an elderly Native American told him that if you go to this spot, you will find what you're looking for. So 2 years ago, I went for the first time, and we did catch something on a game camera. Now, this was 2 years ago, and that's on my website. Don't want to talk about that because what we have now is going to be way past the evidence of what we had back then.
Okay.
So this past Memorial Day weekend, which was a couple of weeks ago, we left on a Friday, and we stayed Friday and a Saturday night. And what happened is Saturday or early Sunday morning, it started to snow. So, and we're way in the middle of nowhere. We're talking dirt roads to get there. I mean, we're just talking middle of nowhere. And it started to snow about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we said, you know what, we better get out of here or we're going to get snowed in, and no one is going to find us because this is a remote area, period. And we had 3 vehicles and about 6 guys. I have a Ford F-150 pickup, not a 4x4, just a regular, just a regular pickup. And David, he had the Jeep, and we had another guy who also had a 4x4. Well, David's Jeep did not start. It could not start. We tried to jump it, and I think the alternator went bad on it. And then at that point in time, when we were packing, throwing everything in the back of my truck, getting ready to get out of there, David comes up to me and he says, you know what, Jeff, you're not going to be able to make it out of here in your truck. And I freaked. So what happened is we had to leave both of our vehicles up there in the middle of nowhere. My pickup, everything was in the back bed, open. Okay, all of the camping equipment, we had ice chests full of food, the whole 9 yards. So we all piled up in the last vehicle, which was the Toyota 4x4, and we barely made it out of there because of the snow and the mud and the rain. So this is Sunday afternoon. We get back home, and I'm stressing because I forgot my laptop computer in the back of my truck. And for all those who have computers, and you know, pretty much your livelihood is in that thing. And I'm freaking at that time. So I called my buddy Alan, who was with us camping that weekend, and I said, Alan, can you please do me a favor and take me up there to go get my laptop computer? I probably won't be able to bring the truck home, but at least I can bring my laptop home, and I can feel more at ease with myself because, like I said, I have Social Security numbers, bank information, all that up there. But it's where we left our trucks. It's in the remote area. It's like at that point in time, I'm pretty sure it's going to be safe, but it's just I don't trust anybody nowadays. So he took me up there Tuesday morning, and he brought his brother with him because we were going to have to track in from the mountain down in. It's about 2.5 miles. Probably take us about 45 to 60 minutes by foot because there's no way we can take a vehicle into there because of the roads are just muddy, watery. There's not even a 4x4 would be able to make it. So his brother comes down with me, and we start tracking in. And about 200 yards before the site where our vehicles were left up there, we started running into some barricades on the dirt road. Now, you have to understand, this place where David has been going for 9 years, he's had so much activity, it's unreal. We find footprints all the time we go up there. So, to find a footprint, it's really no big deal anymore because we find a lot of them up there in the special location. So we start tracking down, and we're as we're walking down in the dirt road, we're looking for footprints, and we don't see anything. And then we run into this old tree, a dry-out tree that someone had placed across the dirt road. And I'm going, Jimmy wasn't with us on the camping trip, but I told Jimmy, I go, hey, Jimmy, this tree, which is very light and somebody can easily push and take off with 2 hands, no big deal. This wasn't here when we left on Sunday morning. I don't understand what this is doing here. And we're looking for tracks, we're looking for tire marks, anything like that would help us try to figure out what's going on, and nothing. So we continue on. We find another barricade, and this barricade is 2 tree limbs dragged over from the side and put in the middle of the dirt road. And, I have pictures and all this, which, at this point in time doesn't mean anything because I'm just thinking, okay, somebody put them in the middle of the dirt road. Why? I don't know. 3rd barricade, another tree limb across. The 4th barricade, this one was a little bit weird. There was now a a log about 14 feet long, and the radius on it was about 14 inches, weighing, we think, about close to 800 to 1,000 pounds. This thing was laying on the side of the dirt road, and you can see where the impression was. So now it has moved between 4 and 5 feet over to the middle. Not across, but like if it was rolled over to the middle of the road, okay? But the only problem with that is that we're looking, and we don't see any marks of rolling or any footprints or any. The dirt was not disturbed. And on the tree log itself, there's like old tree branches that are, that are still on the tree. So if you go to try to roll it, either you're going to snap the tree branches or it's going to stop you from rolling it. Well, all the tree branches were still intact. They were still maybe only about a foot long, but still. I got on my knees and I tried pushing this tree log, and I couldn't do it. And Jimmy goes, "You're not going to move that. That thing is way too heavy." And he's right. So at that point in time, I'm going, okay, this is very particular. I thought to myself, did a park ranger come by, see our vehicle stranded, and put that there to protect our vehicles? I'm trying to debunk this because as a paranormal investigator, I'm going, how did it get from there to there?
Mm-hmm.
So we continue on our journey. We arrive at the site, look at our vehicles. We're looking around for footprints. Everything is cool. There's nothing missing from my truck. And I have all my camping equipment in the back, food in the ice chest. Tons of food. Nothing has been disturbed, okay? We do find one footprint, about 12 inches long, toes on it. You know what it is. So, and this was about 40 feet from where our vehicles were at on the dirt road. So we thought, very cool. So I took video of that. I took pictures of that. I opened up my truck, got my laptop computer. Bam, we're out of there. So we start tracking, going uphill. Took us about an hour, 10 minutes to get out of there. So we get home. I called David Ragosta. I tell him what we find. He says, cool. Well, and he goes, well, tomorrow morning, let's go back up and get our vehicles. I'm going, okay, no problem. So I called my supervisor. I got the day off. The next morning, which is Wednesday morning now, we go back up, and we hop into one vehicle, take us down, and the roads are still messed up. Really bad, muddy, water, the whole 9 yards. And we get to the locations where the barricades are starting to come up. So we start moving them one by one. Now we come up to the log. And so it took 4 of us to roll this thing out of the way. We literally had to get on our knees and push with leverage with our feet. And when we did this, you can see where the dirt got disturbed, okay? Because it took everything we had to push this big old telephone pole-looking log out of the way. And we finally did. And the rest of the guys started walking, looking on the side to see if they get any footprints. And I hopped into the truck with our other buddy, Joe. And we arrived at the location where our trucks were. I get out. I start looking around. Didn't see anything, that's right out of the blue. I didn't see anything weird. And I turn around, and now I'm facing my driver's side window of my vehicle. And I went, and I kind of bent over a little bit because what I was looking at sort of kind of like just scared the crap out of me, if I can say that on TV, on radio.
Sure.
What I was looking at, and to be honest, I almost puked. I almost threw up because what I'm looking at wasn't there the day before when we came up to get my laptop computer. And what's on the passenger side window, I have an extra cab, okay, on my F150.
Okay.
And the driver's side window, there's the impression of a creature on the window. And what I mean impression is this creature literally looked into my window, and I guess because of all the hair that was on it, the oils, the dirt, it left an impression, sort of, kind of like the cloth, the shroud of Jesus. You know how that?
Yeah, the shroud of Turin.
Yeah, shroud of Turin. That's what it looks like on my passenger window, and it's so detailed. It's freaky. You can see the creature's face, then the depth of the eye, the hair all around the face, and it's there staring at you. And it shows the shoulder even imprinted on the glass. And I'm going, holy crap. So I go, Jimmy, get over here now. He comes over and he goes, was this here yesterday? He's looking at it and he goes, no, it wasn't. Now, this is the passenger side window. The driver's side window, you have what appears to be another creature looking into the window, into the driver's side window, leaving the impressions of the nostrils, the nose, and the lips. Okay? The lips itself, just pretend somebody was wearing lipstick and put its mouth on the window, and the lips are about 6 or 7 inches long. The nostrils are about 4 inches long, and the nose is like 3 fingers, 4 to 3 fingers of a human hand long. And that's what's left on my driver's side window. And we, at that point in time, we're all freaking out. Now, we're looking at the back of my truck, and right away, does it look like a bear? And the guy, mechanic came down with David to fix his Jeep, and he's going, and you know, we were all thirsty from tracking in. I opened up my ice chest and started getting sodas and water that was left 2 days ago. And even the mechanic goes, and he's like an expert as far as camping. He's been doing it for 30 years. And he goes, Jeff, you're telling me all this food you have in these ice chests and none of it's been touched? He goes, that's not a bear. And I go, well, that makes sense, because a bear would have sniffed my open fried chicken, my bologna, my weenie dogs, everything that I had back there. It would have torn apart my truck. But nothing was touched. What we have on the window of my passenger side window of my vehicle is the face, the impression of, we think of a juvenile Bigfoot. It's not a bear. It's not a person, because we are so far remotely away from everybody. It doesn't even look like a person. And when we show this to the world on Thursday, you will freak out on what you're going to see. Now, on top of this, what we have, because of the lips, the nose, the nostrils, the skin, the oil on the windows, we got DNA. So on the way down from Wednesday, I called my buddy who works for the Fresno Police Department at the crime scene division, and I go, Mickey, this is what we have. I need for you to get your butt down here after work and take DNA samples and take photographs. And he says, no problem, I'm there. But the only problem, when he called me a little bit later, he said, hey, we just had a stabbing at Fresno State. I need to go over there. I won't make it tonight. So he came over the following day, and I have pictures and video. He swabbed for DNA right on the lips, the nose. On the nostrils, it even shows mucus running down the window. Okay? So he swabs all that. He takes photographs. And he says, Jeff, come here. I go, what? He goes, you see the stuff right here where the upper impression is where the shoulders are at? He goes, this is hair or fur. Either or. I go, how do you know? I go, trust me, I know. This is hair or fur. And it looks like when there's a wet dog and the wet dog pushes his whole body against the window, that's what it looks like on the impression. I mean, it is the spookiest thing. I have shown, I started taking video with my iPhone and started taking pictures with my iPhone. I even had a JVC camera. I started taking video. And I have shown people who don't believe in Bigfoot, period. And I show them pictures on my iPhone. I go, what do you think this is? And right away they say, well, it's not a bear. And they know what I do. And they look at me and they go, you got to be freaking kidding me. I said, swear to God. I go, that is what was left on my windows up. Now, you have to understand that it's just not me who witnessed this. We have 5 people. Okay, we have a high school principal, who's David Rigosa, who's also the investigator for Bigfoot and used to be an investigator for the BFRO. And then we also have a correctional officer for 17 years at state prison. He was there. You have myself and 2 other people who witnessed witnessed all this. So what we have is something that we think is going to change everything on Bigfoot. We potentially believe we have the next best evidence to the Patterson film. That's how good this is.
Well, I have to ask you, how have you preserved that window in order to retain that impression that's on it?
I took the windows off my truck.
Okay.
Yep, they are preserved right now in a special location. Even I had 2 days afterwards, my buddy called me after I sent him the picture, and he goes, where are the windows right now? I go, they're on my truck still. You take those off now. very forcefully, you take them off now. So the following morning, I told my boss, my supervisor, can I have a couple hours off? Went to the location where they replaced windows, had them both taken off, and I got them preserved right now. And new windows back on. Cost me $300, but I had to do it because what I believe we have is I believe we have the DNA of a Bigfoot, of two Bigfoots actually. I believe there was two different creatures there that day.
So you've got the DNA sample from the saliva.
Yep.
And there was hair, or there was the impression
No,
of hair?
it was the impression of hair.
Okay.
So he swabbed pretty much everywhere.
Have you gone over, I mean, I'm sure you have, but I mean, did you go over the remainder of the truck to see if there had been any
Yes.
kind of fingerprints or anything left?
Nothing. What also is shown on the driver's side window is two handprints, but they're not very detailed. But you can see where the fingers or the knuckles are on the window, but the thumb is on the door itself. So, a bare paw, you would see all the fingers, all the digits. If it would have laid his paw on the window, then you would be able to see all the digits. But you see the thumbprint on the left hand and the right hand all on the door, and the digits or the knuckles of the fingers on the window. So they're separated, okay? From what I understand, a bear's paw aren't separated that long. That type of, they're not that far apart. So even the forensic expert, when he was looking at that, he's going, well, I see the thumb down here, and I see either fingers or knuckles up there. And he goes, that doesn't look like a bear to me. I'm going, okay, thank you. So what happened is that night when we came down, I decided I have a small radio show. I decided to go on and talk to everybody about it. And I took a snapshot with my iPhone. I had the video on my iPhone, and I decided to pause the video at a certain spot and take a snapshot with my iPhone. And I posted that on my Facebook wall. And it was on there for about 4 hours, and then I get a call from David Rigosa, and he told me, you know what, Jeff, I'm going through all the video and the pictures that we have, and I can't believe what's left on your window. He goes, this is just truly, it's blowing my mind, and it's totally remarkable. It's blowing my mind. You need to take that off right now. I'm going, why? I'm going, what I believe you have on your windows is potentially going to be very important in the near future, and this is not the way to show the world. He says, we need to show the world the right way. And I said, well, what do you mean? We need to hold a press conference. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And he goes, no, we need to do it the right way. So I'm going, okay. So I started deleting all the pictures and all the remarks. And what happened is during that time that the photograph was on the Facebook wall, once it's on there, it's public domain. So people, I guess, started saving that picture. Well, 2 days ago, somebody released it, and it's now on the Internet. You can, as a matter of fact, somebody released it first to Lauren Coleman, and it's on his website, and it's on his Facebook wall. And the picture that's on there is the picture that I snapshot off the video. It's at an angle. You can see the face. You can see you can see it pretty well detailed, but it's not quite as the same as if you were looking at it straight forward, because this is at an angle. And what happened is now people are going, well, especially from Lauren Coleman. When he saw that, he said, oh, it's a homeless person. But you have to understand, we're up at 5,500 feet in the Sierras, okay? There's no homeless person up there. Sorry. Lee Spiegel from AOL called me, and he said, Jeff, Lauren Coleman just called me and sent me over this press release, and you need to tell me what's going on with this Bigfoot stuff. And I started telling him. And I guess Lee called Lauren to get some comments, and then Lauren pretty much said that, it looks like a homeless person. That's all it is, homeless person. And, and it's kind of blown me away because, a lot of people are looking at that, and they're taking that, what he says, to truth, which it isn't. When you see on Thursday, when we show this to the world, it's not a homeless person. In no way, no how is this a homeless person. And you'll see it when you finally see it. you're going to get goosebumps. You're going to get shivers up your spine, like we did that day. Because this thing, when I first saw it, this thing was staring me down on my window, and like I said, I got sick to my stomach because I just could not believe what I was looking at. So we have, like I said, we have potentially the DNA of Bigfoot, and I know we do, because what you see, when you see on the window of my truck, is you'll understand what I'm talking about. That's not a bear. And you have to take all the evidence and all the facts surrounding the whole event as far as, if that was a bear, then the back of my tailgate would have been ripped off, my ice chest, 4 ice chests full of fried chicken, hot dogs, bologna, all that would have been gone with bread and potato chips. All that would have been just gone, and all of our camping equipment would have been all over the place. But everything was still intact. Nothing was touched.
Well, what's your plans for the DNA? I mean, how do you plan about having that?
Mickey, the forensic expert, has told me, he says, in order to do the DNA, it's going to be very, very expensive. And I said, crap. And he says, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find a company who has DNA from bear, gorillas, and monkeys in order to see if the DNA matches with any of those three, because it's either going to be those three, a human, or Sasquatch. Okay? Now, he says it's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars, which we don't have. So David Ragosa, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow, on Monday, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it out there. We have in our possession what we know we have, but we need somebody to come forward and to get this stuff tested. And at this point in time, too, I'm willing to take a lie detector test. And I'm sure the other guys are willing to do it, too. But what we have is not a joke. It's not a hoax. I'm willing to take a lie detector test, and we're willing to give the DNA to a reputable forensic lab that can take it and map it to try to find out if it's a bear, a gorilla, a monkey, a baboon, and to see where this thing lies. Because right now, there is no DNA of a Bigfoot. So people are saying, well, if they got DNA, that's going to tell us if we have a Bigfoot or not. No, it's not, because we do not have DNA for a Bigfoot.
It'll just rule out the other
possibilities. Exactly. It'll rule out everything else.
Let me ask Matt Costa, just keep an eye on things. If you got to run that legal ID, we might go a little bit past. But let me ask my other co-host, Matt Moniz here,
sure.
Who does DNA work and has done DNA work. What are your suggestions here to these guys to try to help them out in this situation?
Well, first you had it appropriately sampled by somebody trained, obviously, to take the sample, correct? All right. That's the biggest problem with most DNA is a lot of people don't know the appropriate techniques in order which to sample it. The other thing is your statement about them not having DNA sequences for Bigfoot isn't exactly accurate.
Okay.
They do have what they have determined to be an unknown primate sample series from a number of different locations. And almost all DNA, when it was tested, goes into a main data bank of so these instrumentations and stuff can do searches for other parallel matching type DNA.
Great.
So, and if you want, I can try and hook you up with the main people that make some of the best instrumentation, Applied Biosciences.
Awesome.
My brother-in-law worked for him, so I can definitely point you in the right direction.
Cool. And that's what we need. Like I said, it's we don't have the financial backing to do any of this stuff. It's costing me a lot of money. I'm doing I'm the one putting the press conference on, the removing of the windows and all that, and we know what we have. We're not here to make any money. We want to show what we have to the world. All 5 witnesses are going to be up there. 6 witnesses are going to be up there. And we're going to tell our stories. We're going to show you the video of me videotaping the windows. We're going to show you the pictures and videos of the 4 barricades, the 3, the tree limbs, the tree and the log on the dirt road.
I just got to have you hang on for 1 second,
Sure.
Jeff. Just hang on 1 second because we got to run this legal ID, and then we can continue on with the show for a few more minutes.
Okay.
Your local source for news 7 days a week.
Quick, run another one. We're illegal.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, Citadel Broadcasting, AM 1420, WBSM.
Excellent. Okay, now that's out of the way. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's where we stand. The only photograph that's out right now is that one that is the picture that I took with my iPhone. And it's pretty much all over the internet now. I don't know how far it's gone, but you can go to Lauren Coleman's Facebook and look at it. But like I said, what we have here is it's blowing my mind right now that what we possibly have, what I know we have, and it's when people see the photograph of the image of the impression on the window, they're going to go, holy smokes. And I'm also going to bring the windows to the day of the conference, and I'm going to take them out, and I'm going to show everybody. Here they are. And so that's where we stand right now. We don't have a Bigfoot in the freezer. Okay, we don't have a Bigfoot in the refrigerator.
Do you want one? Because I know where there's one of those suits kicking around.
And we don't have one in the washer and dryer for all that matter, okay? What we're doing is we're putting our reputations on the line. It's not coming from a third person or a second person. It's coming from us who found it. This was on my truck in the middle of nowhere. I'm willing to take a lie detector test. We want reputable companies to come forward to take this DNA and to run with it.
All right, why don't we throw out the phone numbers in case anybody has some questions? We'll go just a few more minutes here. 1-877-996-1420, 508-996-0500. You can also throw in some questions into the chat room at spookytv@spookysouthcoast.com, or you can email us spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. So, Jeff, when is this press conference going to happen? It's going to happen Thursday.
It will be next Thursday, June 23rd at 4 o'clock p.m. at the Piccadilly Inn, which is our main airport hotel right across the street from the Fresno Yosemite International Airport.
That's 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Correct.
Okay, so that'll be 1 p.m. Eastern time. And is there any plans to carry it online, or is any?
I'm not sure yet. If I do, I will announce it the night before.
Okay, I can help you out if you need to. I assume you said that you have a laptop.
Right.
And if you have a webcam, I can kind of help you out if you need
the
help, because we have our own online TV channel. So.
Wait. So, well, actually, we do too.
Okay.
I do too, but at this point in time, we don't know if we're going to do it, but there's a good possibility we might. But again, we're not sure yet. But if I do, I will post it on my Facebook page as of Wednesday night.
And what outlets have you heard from? Who do you expect to be there from the media?
Well, the local stations, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I sent out a press. I actually went and hired a firm out of New York to send out press releases to everyone who's in the media. Okay. As a Monday, I'm hoping that I'm going to start getting calls. The Bigfoot in the freezer thing, I think, messed it up for all the Bigfoot investigators out there. Okay, that screwed it up. Tom Biscardi just screwed it up for everyone. So will I hear from the bigwigs? I don't know. They might come after once the image of the windows are out there and say, holy smokes, we should have been there. Then maybe they'll start calling me. But as far as, them being there.
Well, I'll give you a little media inside info. I don't know how plugged in you are to the media, but what'll end up happening is if the local stations come, they'll be affiliated with networks, and then networks can get that footage.
Right.
So it can easily be picked up. So if the local networks put it up there and it's deemed newsworthy enough, it'll be everywhere. It won't take long.
Okay.
We got a couple questions coming in from the chat room.
Sure.
One is somebody wants to know how you are preserving those windows. You said you had taken them out and then you have them safe, but what are you doing to make...
The forensic expert, Mickey, told me to wrap them up in paper, in a certain kind of paper, and I actually have them in the same cardboard box that the originals came in that were replaced, but they're not touching the actual impression itself.
Okay.
Climate conditions.
Yes, climate conditions, 70 to 70 degrees, 24 hours a day.
Humidity?
Inside of somebody's, inside of a building, there's no humidity at all.
Okay, it's a controlled environment.
Yes, controlled. Yes, not outside in my shack.
And then we have another question here, and this one might be a tough one to field, but
Shoot.
where there's been so many of these purported, Bigfoot samples before, different types of evidence, and they've pretty much all turned out to be hoaxes. Any fear on your part of being labeled along those lines?
Nope, because I've got my reputation on the line. If it was just me who found these on my windows, I would have washed them off as soon as I found them. But I have 5 people who were there when we arrived at the site that witnessed all this at the same time I did. Okay, and you have to understand, we have an and on the press release, I specifically put on there, we have an award-winning principal, high school principal, has a master's degree. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because we all have reputations, we all have major jobs. Okay, I work for AT&T Telephone. Okay, I have an associate's degree in electronics. I know a lot of people. For me to be hoaxing this would be stupid.
You know what, though? The 2 guys in Georgia were law enforcement, so they had, they had a lot too.
I think one was like on medical leave, or and the other guy wasn't actually working. So they're idiots.
I'm just saying. Like,
no, you're right.
People are going to raise that hairy eyebrow. No pun intended.
Well, I think what happened is those turkeys. Actually, I think it went too far, and they couldn't stop it after it got so far. When Tom Biscardi decided to take it even further, I think it went too far, and that's where they blew it. If they were just trying to do like a YouTube hoax, and I'm thinking that's what they were probably trying to do. But this is not a hoax, people. I mean, if there's a company out there who's willing to come and give all 5 of us lie detector tests, bring it on.
Have you been in touch with Tom Biscardi at all?
Heck no. I don't know the guy.
All right.
Don't know him.
Just wondering.
Hell no.
Because
I am keeping far away from that dude.
I don't know if you're aware, but his current position is that he was hoaxed right along with the rest of us.
Right.
So
no, because you have to understand. He said he said he was hoaxed on this, which is BS. He went down there and he took pictures right in front of this freezer. Okay, and there's photos out there that show him there at the freezer with the 2 guys, and he was there. How idiot of him to not put his hand in there and to feel the carcass inside the freezer. I mean, come on. So he lied to everybody.
Those are pretty lifelike suits. They do a good job with those. Those cost $100.
And you want to know something? I've seen those, and I told my wife, you know what? I want one for Halloween.
I can't decide between that, the gorilla, or the big chicken. I think I'm going to go with the big chicken.
I mean, come on. I mean, if I was there, I would have stuck my friggin' hand in the ice. And that's the first clue. You don't put a dead body in ice. Really? Water and ice? Come on. Jesus.
Well, hopefully, the media will still show up for your press conference. Hopefully there'll be, just as much attention, because I think now, and I'm not saying this to disparage you in any way, but I think now the appeal to the media is going to be, hey, we might have another one of these Bigfoot hoaxers.
Right.
So that now they kind of want to catch you on that. So either way, I mean, whatever gets them to show up, right?
Which is fine, because I've already got notified by NBC down here, and I'm going to be on a talk show down here the day before. So I can tell you right now, the media knows who I am in Fresno. Okay, they know what I do. I've been doing this for a while now. I've been on many of their ABC and Fox networks down here with different things that are going down here. Because like I said, we investigate everything paranormal, ghost, UFOs. Now, I used to be an investigator for MUFON. Okay, matter of fact, I was a state section director for MUFON for the Central California. But I quit about a month ago prior to starting my radio show, because I was told that if I was to do my radio show, I could not talk about any of the MUFON UFO cases on air. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, what are you talking about? He goes, if I'm going to talk about everything paranormal, of course I'm going to talk about cases that MUFON has. And he goes, no, you can't. You're not allowed to. So I said, see ya, and I quit. So I was with MUFON for 2 years, state section director. You can go and verify it. So everybody knows me really well here. I get calls from the Fresno Police Department on objects flying over Fresno, and I've had them call me on 4 times now. So they know who I am. They know I'm not a hoaxer. They've actually sent over people that has had problems with either ghosts in businesses or whatever, they throw my name at them, and they give me a call and say, hey, we have somebody that you can that you need to talk to or whatever. So I'm respected down here. I'm not somebody who goes out and pull hoaxes and jokes. That's not me. That's not me at all.
Well, one last bit of advice before we let you go, Jeff, and this is coming from somebody who works, I'm a newspaper reporter for my day job.
Sure.
So as somebody who works in that field, let me tell you, the easiest way to get them to show up, tell them there's going to be food. It doesn't matter if there isn't. Just tell them that there's going to be food.
Food or alcohol?
Yeah, well, we're not supposed to be impaired while we do our job, but nobody has any problem with us shoving our faces.
You know what? I might just have to get some weenies on sticks or something in there then.
I'm pretty sure nobody would cover like the St. Louis Rams unless, if it wasn't for the buffet they give the reporters before the game. So, all right,
you know what? I'm going to take you up on that.
That's fine with me, man. So Thursday will be the time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
Pay attention to your website. You want to give out your web address to everybody?
Absolutely. Sanger Paranormal Society. And Sanger is a small town east of Fresno. That's where I was born and raised, so that's why I call it that. And it's spelled S as in Sam, A-N-G-E-R, paranormalsociety.com.
There you go. So everybody pay attention to that, and hopefully this will get picked up, and we'll be seeing it on our local news, and we'll be seeing it on all the international channels. And just looking at that photo on Cryptomundo, I'm definitely excited about looking and seeing more about the rest of the evidence that you have. So.
This is not a hoax, guys. I'm telling you right now, from God honest truth, this is not a hoax. This is not a joke. We're not pulling anybody's chain. This actually happened to us, and we want to show you everybody what we have on my windows.
Just the one thing to be careful, though. What if somebody's trying to pull a hoax on you?
No, because we know where we're at, okay? And there's no way anybody could got to this location because the reason why we had to leave is there was a snowstorm.
Okay. Well, I hope everything works out. We'll be paying attention on Thursday, and hopefully you can come back and talk to us more about it sometime in the future.
Absolutely.
And if you want, I will forward you very reputable labs that will do DNA testing.
Cool. Then send them to me. I would really appreciate it. And anybody can send me anything they want at sangerparanormal@AOL.com. I also have a 24-hour UFO hotline that's on the website.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Good luck, Jeffrey Gonzalez of Sanger Paranormal Society. We'll be paying attention, and if it does turn out to be Bigfoot, we'll send Moniz out there, and they can mate.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Have a good night. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, that'll do it for this week's show. We'll be back next week with, I believe we're going to be having Nick Redfern next week, who we're very excited about finally having him on the show. It's only been, almost 6 years now that we've been on the air, and we have yet to get Nick Redfern. And he is like the most prolific guy in the paranormal today. We're going to be talking about the real Men in Black, and I've just about finished the book. It is amazing, some of the stuff that he gets into. It's, you think when you're talking Men in Black that you're talking just about, UFO-related phenomena. No, it goes beyond that. It goes into everything from folklore to clandestine government agencies. It's going to be a lot of fun talking about the real Men in Black with Nick Redfern. So join us next week at our regular time, and hopefully the Red Sox will allow us to be on for the full show. Remember, you can get a hold of us all week long at SpookySouthcoast.com. That's the place to go to find out about the show. And you can also follow us on Twitter and follow me on Facebook, Tim Weisberg, and we'll keep you up to date there as well. So until next week, for Matt Costa, for Matt Moniz, for Chris Balzano, I'm Tim Weisberg, and we want you all to stay spooktacular.
You should. Every day, more than 2,500 teenagers abuse prescription medication for the first time. Sadly, teens often experiment with medications they find right at home. Many young people think it's safer to misuse prescription medication